Good morning, you all. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back. It's Monday on the 14th. Happy Valentine's Day. I even have a red mask here. It's pretty fancy. Just got that senior class. And so we'll get started, you all, in about 1 minute. We will have guest speakers after our tradition. So let's get everyone in and we'll be able to get started. All right, you all. We will begin with our pledges. Please stand for the pledges. Pledge to the United States flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas Flag Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Our campus mission: develop young men into impactful leaders through the development of their intellectual, moral, physical, social, and emotional skills for the global society of tomorrow. Our vision: the school of today for tomorrow's leaders. Motto: believe, achieve, succeed. Core beliefs: campus core, engagement, encouragement, exposure, environment, excellence. Student core: academia, brotherhood, character, perseverance, service. Campus creed: we are the Barack Obama Male Leadership Academy. We believe in the transformative powers of knowledge and wisdom. We believe that success is brought about by perseverance, not chance. We know our actions are governed by strength of character rather than whims of emotion. We resist excuses, holding ourselves accountable for our actions. We are successful through honesty, humility, and the pursuit of intellectual excellence. We are loyal to our family. We are our brother's keeper. We are committed to our community. We are servants of mankind. We have the audacity to hope. We have the audacity to succeed. We are the Barack Obama Male Leadership Academy. And now for our school song.
We are the brothers of BOMLA with the goal of becoming best in the USA. We believe perseverance, not chance, is the way to achieve. Our actions are governed by character, honesty, humility. Excuses don't exist. We are loyal to our family, committed to our community, servants of mankind and humanity. We have the audacity to hope and succeed. We are the brothers of Barack Obama, Male Leadership Academy. We have the audacity to hope and succeed. We have the audacity to believe, achieve, succeed. We are the brothers of Barack Obama, Male Leadership Academy. Believe, achieve, succeed.
And now for a moment of silence. All right, thank you all very much. You may be seated. All right, thank you again for joining us, you all. It's Monday, Valentine's Day, and it's still kind of cold out there. I think it's gonna be like 70 degrees later on today. We're gonna continue to focus on line 11 from our creed. We have the audacity to hope, and just continue to stay positive, you all. There's lots of stuff going out there, lots of gloom and doom. but you stay focused on the goals that you've set and stay positive and stay patient and continue to have the audacity to hope. All right, let me see what birthdays we have today, but I apologize. Let's get in rhythm really quickly. I'm going to give you all 3 minutes. Let's get on our clever apps and we'll get in rhythm by responding to the questions and then viewing the brief video. All right, y'all, we have about 15 seconds. Let's wrap up the responses. And if you're already viewing the video, we have about 10 seconds. All right, you all, this QR code is also posted. Thank you very much for getting in rhythm. This QR code is also posted on the Leadership Lounge. You can scan this code and you'll have access to a mental health survey that Brother Alexander Medina is conducting for an article for Dallas Youth Magazine. So I'll leave it up there for another 10 or 15 seconds. And again, it's also posted in the Leadership Lounge. All right, you all, let me see which birthdays we have for our Valentine's brothers. Okay, so we have Brother Devin Lewis, 11th grade. Happy birthday, Brother Devin. And we have Brother Dylan Lopez, 8th grade. Happy birthday, Brother Dylan. And Brother Isaac Nunez, 7th grade. So happy birthday, brothers. We'll give you a quick PJ Panda.
Yeah, I heard it was somebody's birthday. I heard it was somebody's birthday. Yeah, PJ Panda birthday song. Yeah, yeah. Today is your birthday. We gon' say it loud. Today is your birthday. I know you're so proud. Today is your birthday. We gon' turn out. About to throw a party, get it lit and wild out. Cut the cake and we gon' say happy, happy, happy birthday. Happy, happy, happy birthday. Happy, happy, happy birthday.
When you see these young men, please wish them a happy birthday. All right, what announcements do we have before we get started with our guest speakers? All right, Mr.
Good morning. Oh,
Mr. Garrett.
Okay, go ahead.
Anderson, go ahead. Mr. Anderson, if you have an announcement, you can go ahead.
Good morning. We are about 5 weeks away from our high school academic UIL competition, which is at the very end of March. So I'm going to be coming around at different high school advisories this week and next week, trying to see if we can't get some brothers to represent Barack Obama at this academic competition. If you are really good at these competitions, you make it at the state level. Probably the easiest way that I've heard of to earn a scholarship is if you can get the state level in these competitions and score in, I think, the top 5 at the state level. So I'm going to come in and ask brothers to represent Obama. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson, for continuing to support those UIL competitions. Any other announcements? I know Ms. Garrett, Ms. Fernandez.
Good morning, Ms. Garrett, Assistant Principal. Happy Valentine's, you guys. I did want to give a special announcement for the staff that today we will be having the staff Valentine event. It's during all lunches in the House of Alliance room. So please come down during your lunch period. Students are not allowed. It is for all the staff. So teachers, faculty, and once again, happy Valentine, and thank you to all those students who attended attendance for credit on Saturday. If you did not come, then I will be reaching out to you today and over the course of the week to schedule your appointment to make up seat time with me. Thank you guys and have a great day.
Good morning and happy Valentine to each one of you. I just want to remind the teachers just to look at the email that I sent you. This morning I did some updates to the, TELPAS PowerPoint. So if you would please take a close look at slides 3, 40, and I added slides 31 and 32. Okay, so you will actually have the option as you go into these couple of weeks. I mean, actually, we only need 5, writing samples, but I'm, giving you a couple of weeks of window to complete them because I know that you also have a PDOL to have completed by the week of the by next week, not this Friday, but next, Friday. And so please make sure that you take the time to complete this with our brothers. But they will need to have, 5 writing samples, and I've given you instructions, and also I've given you suggested prompts also, but you can actually have the autonomy to create your own prompts, in collaboration, reading teachers with your math and science and social studies teachers. Thank you all. You'll have a happy Valentine.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fernandez. Any other announcements, you all? I just have one. Okay, this announcement is from Miss Williams, college advisor. She's reminding the 11th grade brothers, the juniors, that the makeup session for the SAT tutoring will be tomorrow in the same rooms downstairs, 134 and I think 130, 135 or 133. Those 2 rooms right next to each other across from Mr. Small's computer lab. So the makeup session for the tutoring will be tomorrow during advisory for all 11th grade brothers. Any other announcements? All right, so we do have guest speakers this morning. And Ms. King, are you going to do the introduction? Is that what it?
I would be happy to introduce Dr. Capers.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Ms. King. Thank you for joining us and getting us these nice guests to speak with our young men for Black History Month, and just for, it could be for Career Day, it could be for
Absolutely. We have plans for coming back after February, but we're so pleased to have Dr. Quinn Capers with us this morning. And it's just an honor for us to be at BOMLA. The brothers and the staff, you all are really inspiring. I just want y'all to know that. And so it's our pleasure to be here. Dr. Quinn Capers IV is a professor and the inaugural vice chair for diversity and inclusion in the Department of Internal Medicine here at UT Southwestern Medical Center. He also serves as Associate Dean for Faculty Diversity, and he specializes in interventional cardiology. Dr. Capers earned his medical degree at the Ohio State University College of Medicine. His clinical and academic interests include interventional cardiology, medical education, racial healthcare disparities, and diversity enhancement. A nationally recognized leader of diversity and inclusion in academic medicine, Dr. Capers has delivered more than 200 lectures and trainings nationwide on implicit bias in medical care. We are so glad he is here today. Dr. Capers, the virtual podium is yours.
Thank you so much, Ms. King. And I want to say good morning, happy Valentine's Day, happy Heart Month, happy Black History Month to everybody on the call. Thank you, Mr. Jackson, Ms. Garrett, and anyone who had anything to do with my being invited today. It's really a pleasure. So let me just get started with a little bit about my journey. I'd like to share with the brothers about becoming a Black man in medicine. I'd like to start with this very important piece of art, and it's important to me for a couple of reasons, one of which my daughter is the artist, so I'm very proud of her. But I want you to take a look at this and what you see. And what you're seeing is a Black physician, and he's being crushed by two forces. And on one side, on his right side, he sees a virus that is disproportionately killing people in his community. And on the other side, his left side, he sees racism. Here evidenced by police brutality that is disproportionately killing people in his community. And in the background, what's happening? Cities are burning as riots turned into protests and turned violent. And this is what the world was like to be a Black doctor in 2020. We thought a lot of that would be left behind in 2020, but it didn't. It followed us into 2021. And now, unfortunately, it might be 2022. But I want you to look at the look on the face of this doctor. It's not one of resignation. It's not one of giving up hope. It's coming from a position of strength. Like he will not be crushed because it is his job to help. And I'm really honored to be speaking with all of you today who are going to be people who help in society and help to correct some of society's ills. A little bit about me. So I was born at this very special hospital called Forest City Hospital in Cleveland, Ohio. And one reason I'm really proud of where I'm born is because this was one of those hospitals in a city which in the 1950s, 1960s, and earlier, many, many years, Black doctors were not allowed privileges in hospitals. So the Black doctor could take care of patients in his or her office or in a clinic setting, but if their patient got ill enough that they needed to be in the hospital, the Black doctors couldn't admit them and take care of them to the hospital. So they would have to turn the patient over to a white doctor who would admit the patient to the hospital, to the segregated wards, which were darker, less sanitary, overcrowded patients. Around this country, Black doctors were fed up with that. And many of them got tired of asking and said, you know what, we'll start our own hospitals. And so this was that hospital in Cleveland, Ohio, called Forest City Hospital. So the hospital itself was born kind of with a rebellious spirit. And so I'm very proud that that's where I drew my first breath in that hospital. Every major city has some of these Black hospitals. You should read up on the history. There was a very important one here in Dallas as well. And so then the photograph is something where I'm really just thrilled that I had the opportunity to do. I had the opportunity that a lot of people don't have. I had the opportunity to meet the obstetrician that delivered me. So this is me shaking hands with the doctor that delivered me there at Forest City Hospital. And this was the summer before I left to go off to medical school. It was a real thrill to meet him. But not long after I was born, my birth city introduced me to another important part of the struggle for racial justice, and that is the race riot. So when I was just a toddler, in the Black neighborhood called Huff in Cleveland, there was a race riot where the Blacks had gotten fed up with police brutality. And one night, an incident at a bar started a riot. Ultimately, the National Guard was called out. Tanks were patrolling down the streets of Cleveland, Ohio. Millions of dollars of damage was done. Many buildings were burned, and several people were killed. And I was just a toddler. And so while this was going on, around the corner from the action was a mother with her son. And that son was kind of toddling around the house, wondering what was going on. But that son was me. And sometime shortly thereafter that, I decided that I wanted to be a doctor. And my mother said to me something that, we almost made a pact. She said, if you will keep your grades up, I'll take care of everything else. So you say you want to be a doctor, that's going to mean getting good grades. That's going to mean staying out of trouble. So if you will do that, then I'll do my part. If there's any tuition, anything that need to be paid, any books, any labs, I'll take care of that. So at this young age, my mother and I had a pact. And shortly thereafter, we moved to Dayton, Ohio, and we grew up in homes that are now considered Section 8 homes or low-income homes, but they didn't have that terminology then. And that's the apartment that I lived in right there. And I'll tell you something, a little bit about the neighborhood that I lived in. It was the young kids were doing things that they shouldn't be doing. I'll just leave it at that. And I'll tell you, just as an example, see that little, we call those sheds, it was a storage shed. Every 2 apartments shared it. And there was a divider in there so that every apartment had their side to store things. And so I kept my bicycle in there. And one day I came out, unlocked the padlock, went in there, my bicycle was gone. And it took us a while to figure out that the people who stole my bike were so ingenious. And this shows you that people can use their brain. You can use your brain for evil, you can use your brain for good. And so the thieves had come into this side and they had constructed like a pulley, some kind of engineering marvel, a pulley to reach down over into our side, grab the bicycle with a series of ropes, get the bicycle up and over the top of the shed. So they didn't even have to go into our side of the shed. So that's the kind of neighborhood that I grew up in. And there weren't a lot of people walking around there who wanted to be doctors, but I knew that I did. And I felt like I was on a mission, that I've been called to be a doctor. And so this is me now, a few years later in the 7th grade. One night, things kind of became clear to me and I started to learn some life lessons because I was with my buddies. And we were doing what we often would do, late night, playing basketball. Even after they turn the lights out, we keep playing. And we would play this game called Horse. Horse, if you don't know, that's a game where you take turns doing fancy shots. So you do a fancy shot, and if it goes in, the person behind you has to repeat it. And it has to go in. And if they miss it, then they get an H. And if they miss another one, they get an O until the word horse is spelled, and then they're out. And then the last person standing is the winner. So I'm getting ready to do my fancy shot, and my buddies are behind me. And we're doing something that we did a lot in those days, which is talk about what we want to be when we grow up. And I'm saying the same thing I always said, that I want to be a doctor. And something told me to turn around after I said that. And I turned around, and my friends, my partners, my buddies, they were biting their lip to keep from laughing until one of them couldn't take it anymore, and they just started laughing. And they were laughing at the idea of me wanting to be a doctor. And one of them even said, he said, man, I'm tired of you talking about that. There's no way you're going to be a doctor. Look around here. Do you see any doctors around here? Man, you ain't never going to be no doctor. And that's a true story. And this was one of my friends. And it became clear to me like a lightning bolt. At that moment, I thought to myself, Quinn, it's time to get some new friends. And it's time to hang around with some more people, some different people. Real story. His name wasn't really Junebug, but I've kind of changed the name to protect the innocent, as they say. But I've often heard Junebugs as I continued my journey, Junebug's words. And one of the problems is that sometimes we don't see beyond what I like to say, the 6 inches in front of our face. And Junebug couldn't see beyond the 6 inches in front of his face. He didn't have a long vision like people who are successful have to have. Later on, after elementary school, I went to high school, and at Dayton Dunbar High School, not many people were walking around talking about they wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer, but some were. And this shows you that even then, I was showing some traits of being a good physician, because my senior class voted me the friendliest. I'm a friendly guy, and that's a good trait for a doctor. But I knew that I was on a mission. And even though it was at a school that they didn't use the rating systems then that they use now, but if they did, what I know in retrospect is that my high school would have been called on academic emergency. Most of the kids were on free or reduced lunch. Less than a quarter of the kids went on to college. And some of the testing scores in reading and math were low. But I was on a mission, and I knew it was important to do your homework. And remember, I had made this pact with my mother. Plus, I felt like I was really on a mission. So I always knew that if you're going to be a doctor, you got to go to college. So from my freshman year of high school on, I was thinking about what I need to do to go to college. When it came time for me to pick a college, it was very exciting. But what I knew was that I was a Black history buff. I loved reading about my Black heroes, loved reading about Black doctors, Black lawyers, Black judges, Black freedom fighters. And I knew that when it came time for me to pick a college, I wanted to go to a college where some of the people that I'd been reading about had been teaching or had been there as students. And so off I went to Washington, D.C., from Dayton, Ohio, to Howard University, because at the time I had a list of what I thought a college would need to land me. See, I had, I thought highly of myself, and you should think highly of yourself too. So I said, okay, for a college to land me, it's got to be in a major city. Dayton was a middle-sized city, and I kind of was ready for life in a big city. So it's got to be in a major city. That's number one. Number two, it's got to be a Black school. So it's got to be one of these historically Black colleges and universities. Number three, since I knew I wanted to be a doctor, I knew it would be a good idea to be at a college that has a medical school as a part of the university and a hospital. So I said, it's got to be in a large city. It's got to be a Black college, and it's got to have its own medical school and hospital. What I didn't know at that time is I had narrowed down all of the thousands of colleges in the United States down to one. There was only one that fit the bill at that time, and that was Howard University. So off to Howard University I went, and my journey really began in earnest. I was always somebody who was a pre-planner. My first week in the dorm at Howard University, on a piece of loose leaf notebook paper, I wrote down a plan of what courses I was going to take for 8 semesters. First 2 semesters of freshman year, sophomore year, junior year. See, I mean, I planned it all out. That's how much of a pre-planner I was. And let me tell you something, with a few exceptions, like sometimes I would get to the point of registering and 1 or 2 classes would no longer be offered. With few exceptions, I stuck to that plan that I mapped out my first week in college. So I was serious, and I was definitely a pre-planner. I also was someone that was always looking to be inspired. And so even though at Howard University, like at most colleges, there are multiple cafeterias, multiple places for the students to get their meals. My favorite place was in the Howard University Hospital cafeteria. Now, my friends and the young lady that I was dating, especially my senior year, who wound up being my wife, used to ask me, why do you always go to the hospital cafeteria when there's a cafeteria right up here on main campus? And what I explained to them was sitting in that cafeteria, seeing those Black doctors walk back and forth in their white coat, talking about the operation they just did, talking about the patient they just treated, was very inspiring to me. Seeing the Black medical students, it's almost like the meatloaf tasted a little bit better because I was surrounded by doctors. So this is me again, hanging with people that support my dreams. That's what I found at Howard University. Hanging with my friends. This was my college sweetheart, who is now my wife of 33 years. And this is graduation day. Again, hanging with people who support my dreams. This is my friend, Dr. Robert Hoover. He's a nephrologist, a kidney specialist at Tulane University. He wanted to be a doctor, and the two of us, Michael and I, would say, man, you're going to be a doctor. You're going to be a good one. This is my friend, Dr. Michael Jordan. He's a psychiatrist. When he talked about wanting to be a doctor, the other two of us said, man, you're going to make it. And this is me, and they supported my dreams. And that's what you need to do. Get around people who support you, not people who bring you down, people who will help to lift you up. So it was time to go to medical school, which you do after college. Went back to my home state, the Ohio State University College of Medicine. It was 4 years experience. And now graduation day, here's the payoff. There's my mother. You know, we had that pact and she got me through. And this is my graduation day. And it was a very proud day for all of us. But while I was there, while I was at the Ohio State University, that's when I was first introduced to this disease called coronary artery disease, which is the leading cause of death in the United States, the leading cause of death in the entire Western hemisphere of the world. And that's a disease where the arteries that give blood flow to the heart muscle become clogged up. They become clogged up with this material called plaque, which is a combination of particles from cigarette smoking, cholesterol, white blood cells, smooth muscle cells, blood clots, etc. And when it clogs up those arteries, the heart muscle doesn't get enough blood flow. And when it goes from 99% to 100% completely blocked, then the heart muscle starts to die. And that's what a heart attack is. I was fascinated. And I was fascinated with this disease. And what we knew is that medications can slow down that disease. And if somebody smokes cigarettes and they stop, it can slow down that disease. And if somebody has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, uncontrolled diabetes, if those things get under control, it can slow down the disease, but it doesn't really stop. And when these blockages get severe enough that something must be done, we have some things that we can do. But prior to 1977, there was only one thing that we can do, and that was open heart surgery. That was with actually opening up the breastbone, spreading it open, and while the patient's asleep, going in there and operating and bypassing those blockages so that the blood flow gets to the heart muscle. You notice I said prior to 1977. So what happened in 1977? Well, this guy came along, Dr. Andreas Gruntig, a cardiologist who invented this procedure called balloon angioplasty, where you take a tiny balloon and get it across that blockage, inflate the balloon, and it pushes all that blockage out of the way and restores the blood flow to the heart muscle. I want you to take a good look at him because you're going to see him a little bit later, a few more slides. But he was living in Switzerland when he invented this procedure. But living in Switzerland, he wanted what you would think that everybody else would want, and that was he wanted to be on the big stage. The big stage in medicine was the United States. So he wanted to come to the United States, and he did. And when he came, he landed at Emory University in Atlanta. And from Emory University, he began to teach this procedure. And so while I was a medical student, I became really enthralled with this procedure. And so off to Emory University, I went in Atlanta. And again, with some of my buddies, we hung out tough. We supported each other. We had some pretty fun parties, but we were all like-minded. And these are some of my best 5 friends in the world. That's me right there, in case you can't tell. That's me right there. But that's Emory University Hospital. And that's where I really began to learn my craft of treating patients with heart disease. And then we did a specialized fellowship where we just spent a year learning this procedure. This is what a coronary arteriogram is. This is a picture of those arteries in the heart. And you can see right there where it's very severely narrow, very tightly pinched. That's where the blood can barely get through to get to the heart muscle. What we do is get a balloon across that and inflate it and restore blood flow. So this is me with those specialized fellows learning this procedure. And I bet in this picture, you probably don't have a hard time picking me out. So that's what we learned at Emory University. And then after finishing all my training, it's back to the Ohio State University, where I went to accept a faculty position. And now I've got several responsibilities. One is performing these procedures in heart attack patients and teaching. I'm now teaching. These are fellows that are training under me and how to learn this procedure. But I also did a lot of mentoring, or mentor young men and young women, anybody that wants to be mentored, wants to be a doctor. But we knew at this time that there was a shortage, a coming crisis level shortage of Black men in medicine. And so we did special outreach to this group. And we put together a Black male mentoring roundtable. And this is one of those meetings of the Black male fully trained physicians and the Black male medical students. And I love this picture because it looks like, world, here we come. Here come these Black male doctors. And so that's how I was spending my time until one day, a friend of mine called me and said, hey, Quinn, guess what? The dean of admissions, the person who oversees admissions to Ohio State University Medical School, is leaving. So there is an opening. And I think you should apply for it. And I thought about it for a little while. And my first answer was, no, I'm busy. I just want to learn how to be better and better at treating heart disease. And I want to be the best teacher I can be. I never really thought about being in charge of admissions, but then I thought about it. I slept on it. And the more I slept on it, the more I started thinking that what we all want to do in this life is have impact. And so, of course, you're going to impact every patient that you physically touch. But boy, if you're over the process of application and interview and selection of a school that graduates 200 doctors every year, and each of those 200 doctors goes out and practices medicine for 30 or 40 years all over the world, now you're really talking impact. So after thinking of it a few days, I called up my buddy and I said, hey man, is that position still open? And he said, yes, it is. And I applied and the rest was history. So then I became, in addition to a heart doctor and a professor, I became the dean of admissions. And I'm very proud. This is one of my medical school classes that we admitted. And that's a job I had for 10 years. 10 years, that's 200 doctors a year. That means there are 2,000 doctors out there that are going to practice 30 or 40 years who got accepted to medical school under my leadership on my watch. And that's something that I'm very proud of. Well, I told you that we're very concerned about the lack of Black men applying to medicine. It's at a real shortage. There's been a little bit of an uptick, but we learned that in 2014, there were fewer Black men applying to medical school than in 1978. And the numbers were going down. There's been a little bit of an uptick lately, but still not enough. So we need more Black men applying to medicine. And one of the things we did was we got together a group of physicians and we started this Twitter hashtag campaign. We said, if we flood social media with images of Black male doctors, maybe that will inspire young people and it will allow us also to be able to speak out against injustice. So if you're on Twitter, we want you to get on Twitter. We want you to follow this hashtag, Black Men in Medicine, and take a look at all of the Black male doctors who are doing really incredible things. So in 2020, a new chapter came about in my life. I was recruited to come right down here in Dallas and join the faculty at the University of Texas Southwestern. It's been a little over a year and I'm happy to be here. And we're doing the same things. Here again is another one of those pictures. This is the artery on the front of the heart. And I know you don't need that arrow there because you would have picked it out. You see where this artery that supplies blood to the heart muscle is very tightly pinched? Well, this person is on the verge of having a heart attack. So we're able to get a balloon across that, inflate it, and put in a stent. This is what it looks like before. And this is that same spot, what it looks like afterwards. Is there anything better than that? I mean, we just have a blast using our skills, using our hands, and using our compassion to take care of these patients with heart disease. And this is me with one of my trainees. This is just a couple of weeks ago, me with two of my trainees, Ronaldo and Spencer. They're all training to learn to be heart doctors. And I also take part in, you heard some of my positions in leading discussions on how we can get over bias and racism in medicine, to be more fair, to treat all patients fairly and justly. And that's what I'm doing here, leading this discussion on ways to reduce the impact of bias and racism in medicine. And that Black Male Mentoring Roundtable, well, now it's come to Dallas. We're doing the same thing here at UT Southwestern. And we don't let the pandemic stop us. We just do it via Zoom. So this is the first Black Male Mentoring Roundtable here. And, you know, if you have some doubt about the jubilation and the pride we have of inspiring each other when we get together, just take a look at this surgeon, my man, Dr. Wariaku. That is an expression of joy from us being together. So dreams do come true. So that little boy sitting on his mother's lap made that pact with his mother that I'll take care of studying and working hard and getting good grades. That was my part. Her part is I'll take care of everything else. She works at the post office. I'll deliver mail. I'll work overtime to pay that tuition, to pay those lab fees, to buy those books. And that dream did come true. And I'm very proud of that. And I love my mother very much, who is still with us, by the way. So always think 2 to 3 steps ahead. When I was in high school, I wasn't daydreaming about the next step, college. I was daydreaming about medical school. And when I was in medical school, I wasn't daydreaming about the next step, being a trainee in internal medicine. I was thinking 2 steps ahead of that, being a trainee in interventional cardiology. So think not 1, not 2, but 3 steps ahead, and then be a pre-planner. But when a new opportunity comes along that you hadn't thought about before you say no, sleep on it, because sometimes it might be the best thing that you ever could think of. Surround yourself with people who support your dreams. Always, always make a path for those coming behind you. And remember, there are going to be some times where you may be the only one in the room who looks like you. But always know that you belong there. You're not there by accident. You earned it. Be confident and represent yourself and your community well. Always fight racism and always stay in communication with your family and with your God. That is where your strength comes from. I wanted to show you some pictures. This is me as Dean of Admission, admitting these students with my admissions committee. This comes from before you say no, sleep on it. Hang with people who support your dreams. That's what I started doing ever since that day when somebody that was my buddy said, man, I don't believe you're always talking about being a doctor. That's nonsense. Make a path for those coming behind you. So these are medical students. These are college students not in medical school yet. And these are kindergartners at their white coat ceremony. We need to inspire. We need to reach back. And there are going to be times when you're the only one in the room who looks like you. This is an international course in Zurich, Switzerland, where heart doctors from all over the country came to learn this new technique of opening blocked arteries with a balloon. And now I challenge you to find a Black person in the room. Go ahead, I'll give you a few minutes to find them. Keep looking, keep looking. There's one, that's him right there. And this is a close-up. This is Dr. Alfonso Jordan, who went from New York City all the way to Switzerland to learn this procedure. He was the only one in the room, but he knew he belonged there. He held his head high, he learned his lesson, and then he took that technique back to New York City to treat his patients in Harlem and Brooklyn and Long Island, and had a long, illustrious career. You know, one thing I like about this picture is if you see that's him there in the full auditorium picture, he's in the front row. This really is the front row. These people are sitting on the floor here, but he's in the front row. And remember on the row, who's there with him? Remember that guy with the mustache? That's the guy who invented the procedure. So Dr. Jordan didn't sit in the back of the auditorium. He didn't sit somewhere over on the side. He wasn't hiding. He was right up front. He said, give me all that you got. Give me that knowledge. Give me that information. I'm here to learn. And this was me. I was the only one in the room. There will be times when you are the only one in the room. Always fight racism. Always stand up for what's right. And these are medical students lying down in the street to make a point, and marching at the State House to make a point, and taking a knee for George Floyd to make a point. And this is a slave house. This is the big house on a slave plantation in Mississippi, in Tougaloo, Mississippi. There was a plantation where Black people were owned as property. They were slaves and they picked cotton. That plantation is now a college. It's actually one of our Black colleges and universities, Tougaloo College. And this is me advising their students who want to go to medical school. And I couldn't resist taking a picture on the big house. And I was thinking about the owners of this plantation who used to own those slaves. And I couldn't help myself but think about saying to them, you know, Mr. Bodie, your plantation is still open, but it no longer produces cotton. Now it produces Black intellectuals and Black doctors. Always put your family first, always put God first. That's where your strength comes from. Remember, if there's a June bug in your life, he doesn't need our scorn. He really needs our concern, because he can't see beyond the 6 inches in front of his face. So pray for Junebug, be kind to Junebug, but you got to leave Junebug behind as you get with friends who will support you and your dreams. Because now I practice medicine and I teach and I train young doctors. So Junebug was wrong. but we have a job to do. So this is a picture of me with some students, and as you can probably guess, this was right after the movie Black Panther came out. So we're giving the Wakanda salute, and I'm happy to take, if we have time, any comments or questions. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Capers. We do have time, and thank you for the message. Definitely inspiring. I appreciate your dedication. I appreciate your motivation. It is inspiring me. So I hope that the brothers here also were able to take something away. And if it's anything, it's just over preparing, not giving up, and making a plan for success. I really appreciate that, Dr. Capers. So we do have brothers that are available to ask any questions that they would like. And thank you very much for entertaining those questions. Ms. King has one there. She says, for someone thinking about medical school, what are good majors in college?
So what a great question. So it used to be traditionally that because medicine is so based in biology, that the most common major for those going to medical school was biology. But the truth is now there are prerequisites to take to get into medical school: a year of biology, a year of general chemistry, a year of organic chemistry, and a year of physics. You can take those from any major. When I was the dean of admissions, we had some students to apply to medical school who majored in jazz trombone. You can major in anything you want, major in anything you like to study, but whatever you're majoring in, you got to be sure that you fit those courses in. Now, if you major in biology, since those courses are a part of the major, then it's a little bit easier for you because they're a part of your curriculum anyway. But if you like history, if you like English, if you like chemistry, you don't have to major in biology. Major in what you want to, but you will. There are some required courses that you have to take before you get into medical school.
All right, you all, what questions do you all have for Dr. Capers? That was definitely a very thorough
Get them all?
presentation, and you definitely covered your journey. I just like to ask what is an instance that you would like to share? I'm sure you had multiple. But what is an incident you would like to share about where you experienced, other than Junebug, maybe some of your colleagues, telling you that, oh, you can't make it, or incidents of racism, anything like that.
Well, there were a few, and let's see, one in particular that I can share is I can tell you sometimes we get from patients, we get discrimination and racist thoughts. An example is I will in the hospital make rounds with patients with my trainees, and sometimes some of my trainees happen to be, a white male. And so there have been many times where I've gone in to see a patient with a white male who is my student. I'm the professor and they're my student, and the patient is aiming all of their questions and eye contact to my student, to the point that the student would sometimes get embarrassed and say, actually, I'm not it's Dr. Capers. Dr. Capers is the fully trained cardiologist. I'm just learning. And what has been obvious on a few occasions is that when I am standing next to a white male, even though I'm clearly older than this white male, my white coat is longer, right? That's one of the things in medicine that, the white coat gets longer, the more experience you have. And to any casual observer, you would know between these two people who has the most experience. But sometimes in the patient's mind, it's the white male that they think must be the smartest or must be in charge. That hasn't happened a lot, but it's happened 2 or 3 times. And it just makes you shake your head, but you just go on about your business, because the only way to really fight ignorance and racism is with excellence and with your own attitude that you absolutely belong there.
Absolutely. All right, you all, are there any brothers who have a question for Dr. Capers? And there's another comment or a question. Can you tell us a little more about training faculty on implicit bias?
Yes, yes. So implicit bias is an unconscious association that we might have about certain groups. And it's based on what we've been seeing all of our lives. So that if every time or most of the time you see, let's say, a nun, a woman dressed as a nun, she's doing something kind and warm-hearted, then your unconscious brain will make that connection that when I see a nun, kindness and compassion. On the other hand, if every time you see, or very often when you see a young Black man wearing a hoodie, he's being shown on the 6 o'clock news as being taken away in handcuffs, or he plays the bad guy in the movie, or maybe even in your own personal experience, if you see that enough, your unconscious brain will make that connection, that a young Black man in a hoodie equals crime or equals danger. But we all know that that's not true. But these unconscious associations can actually influence how we treat people. These are called implicit biases, and they've been shown to lead to discrimination in the healthcare system, in the criminal justice system, in the education system, et cetera. The good news is it's very easy, if you're motivated to override and overcome those implicit biases. And there are a few techniques to doing it, just a few ways of thinking when you meet somebody new that can help you mitigate the impact of those implicit biases. And we teach those. So we teach those to our medical school faculty. We teach those to our medical students. We teach those to doctors, nurses, and other healthcare workers because it's so important to be able to reduce the impact of that bias in what we do, healthcare.
Mhm. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, my name is Emiliano Chavez of the Alliance, and my question is have y'all have anybody who's like credit card declines after like you treat them?
Yeah, if I heard thank you for the question. If I heard the question right, have we ever had somebody who had their credit card declined and then we needed to treat them? Is that the question? The answer to that is yes. So we treat people who have no money at all. We treat people who don't even have a credit card. There are one of the places that I work as a doctor at University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center is Parkland, and Parkland Hospital is a county hospital. It's a wonderful thing for a county to have a hospital where they say, we're going to make sure that people who don't have any resources, which means money, any way to pay for their health care, we're going to make sure that they can get excellent health care. So we've got doctors, nurses, respiratory therapists. We've got people lined up and ready to take care of you, whether or not you or your family have any resources. So absolutely, yes. We know and we take care of people whose credit cards were declined. We take care of people who don't have credit cards. We take care of people who don't have any money in their pocket, who don't have a job, who don't have a home. All that doesn't matter to us. We sometimes have to think about how we get things done, but we are here to help. And we want to make sure that people's ability to pay has nothing to do with the care that they receive. I like the question, though. Thank you. Shows you're thinking.
Okay, we still have a couple more minutes. Are there any questions that you would like to ask or any comments?
Good morning, Dr. Capers. This is Ms. Garrett, Assistant Principal. My question is around confidence. How do you find the confidence, even from the beginning as a young child, to have a dream and consistently pursue a dream with goals when you know that the odds were against you and you didn't look like other people and probably received a lot less support than those that looked alike? How did you maintain your confidence through your journey?
So two ways. One, reading about my heroes. So there have been people who have really achieved tremendous things. So even though I didn't really know any Black doctors, I was reading about Black doctors and Black scientists and some of the things that they did. So here we are in Black History Month. It's a wonderful time to be doing that. And so reading about them gave me the confidence that I can do it too. That's one. And the other thing is, what I learned is that no matter what it is you're trying to do, whether it's shooting a certain shot on the basketball court, or learning to dribble with your left hand if you're right-handed, or learning how to do a certain type of math problem, the best way to, or speaking in front of others, the best way to gain confidence is practice, practice, practice. So the more you work at something, the better you are at it. And so if you're afraid, if a certain type of math problem, long division or multiplication, is intimidating you, the best way to get your confidence up is to practice, practice, practice. If you're afraid speaking in front of people, the best way to get your confidence up is to practice, practice, practice. So those two things, working hard and practicing and rehearsing, and also reading about my heroes.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Capers. And we want this to be an ongoing partnership that we would like to continue with UT Southwestern. This goes with our core values of the exposure. And, you know, this is something where we can continue to have people as role models, inspire our young men to just to be their best, because the sky's the limit right now for them. And we really thank you all for coming.
Thank you so very much for having us. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.
Thank you all. Let's make it a great day at Bomley. You all see you all in the hallways and the classrooms. Thank you all.